Hi, I'm Feroza. I'm one of the trustees of the House Mill, which is this beautiful building that you see behind me. It's Grade 1 listed and it was built in 1776. Today, it's a dynamic heritage community space and we're really excited to be hosting the national launch of the Changing Places exhibition. It's touring all over the UK and you can see it here at the House Mill from 7th of July to 16th of July.
I'm the curator of Changing Places. The premise of the show looks at the legacy of industrialisation that is currently playing out across the South Asia region and brings works by artists living or working in India, Pakistan and Bangladesh, showing their work in sites of historic significance that are located across England. It's perfect for this venue because this venue is where grain was ground down and wheat was ground down into flour. So where this venue historically was a site of production and then distribution, Omar's work complements this venue because in his film it's a site of excavation, it's a site of destruction really, and then it's also a site of distribution as well. The second work by Omar is called Locust Temple, and again that work resonates with this venue due to the nature of how people engaged with this site when it was a production mill, so people lived very close by. The site had a multi-use function to it, and in many ways Omar's work, Locust Temple, captures that idea that an architectural building can be a hub for a community and a location that is put to a multifunctional use by the community that use it.
I mean, what really excited me initially about what Mariam was doing was how emplaced it was, how ontological, how much it was about being, rather than just thinking through a place, and how important actions were at the places that she was considering. And that so much of our lives are made from these actions and this being which is beyond language. And I think the works, as I was making them, I was really trying to run away from language and trying to figure out what place meant. What is it to go back to the same place over and over again? And my parents were immigrants to Australia, so we left Bangladesh when I was about 6 or 7 years old. So I was really taken away from that place, and then had very little connection back to it. And so when I did go back about 5-6 years ago to make works like these, and stonework was one of the first works that I'd made, it was really about trying to find a connection to it, which wasn't linguistic, which wasn't mediated in any way, but which was really about being there and looking at and even undertaking the actions that were others were taking in that place.
It's about presence, really.
Yeah, exactly. So it's funny being somewhere where presence used to be and now what remains is the building.
Or the residue.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's funny, The Residue, which is the name of a work by Design Machine Collective.
Yes.
That's up there. And I think it all kind of really came together quite tightly in terms of concept. So.
And what about Locust Temple? Yeah,
Locust Temple went sort of further because it was, I think, more holistic in terms of what happens in a place is this combination of what you do in the place, but also how you feel and what you aim to feel. And perhaps people don't aim to feel it, but they come to a place where there's a community for a certain reason. They come to even a place of work for certain reasons. And the way, it's a really long work, it's 2.5 hours, and we went back to that site maybe 20 or 30 times over a period of 8-9 months. And then it became a familiar place to us. And then we left it, and then we had to go and edit the film. So it was something that then existed only in our memory and in film, which is nearly analogous to memory in a sense. So to have that repeated here, I don't know, it's really interesting to have it removed, something about place removed from place. It becomes activated in a different way. I think different things get attached to it at that point.
But it's also about function and assigned function as well. So both Locust Temple, the temple in Locust Temple and this mill had a a function to them, but then slowly evolve into places where other activity takes place there that is beyond their original purpose.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is something that happens really naturally anyway, is that humans have this tendency to
Appropriate?
yeah, or to alter and to
Morph.
yeah, and when humans connect together, instantly you start getting politics, and you start getting a spiritual aspect in some way. And in Locust Temple, although it's a place of worship, there's a bunch of stuff constantly going on. There's commerce going on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work going on.
Yeah. There's haircuts and
Yeah,
cooking
you
and
know,
all
it's a
sorts
sort
of
of life
daily
stuff.
activity
Yeah.
that's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it happens in the place, and the place decides it. It determines it. But I don't know, it's this really kind of dynamic relationship between the two.
Yeah.
And then what happens when all the people are gone? Like
Yeah.
they're gone from here,
Yeah.
and now we're here for another purpose.
Yeah.
I think a bunch of the works in the show, you know, it is sort of, I don't know, it's lighting up the space again with what.
Well, they are some of the works through their nature. So Residue, for example, is about abandonment. It's about a thermal power station that is it's sort of been discarded and left to be reclaimed by nature. But when I was talking to the artists, they felt very strongly that while nature was reclaiming it, it was becoming a site for a new kind of renewal. And I think that's really interesting, looking at somewhere like this building, where there is a heritage status and a preservation that is assigned to it. So it can't be abandoned in the same way that the thermal power plant's been abandoned, but at the same time, different forms of renewal are taking place both in that work through its abandonment and in this building through its preservation.
And I think this is very important for art to do, you know, and I don't think this art does this enough. I think art gets decontextualized into these white spaces and cubes, and it's far easier to commoditize it. But art, I strongly feel, should refer to place, should refer to certain histories, and there's a different level of power that can come from that, that placing the works in a structure like this traveling exhibition, essentially, because it moves from here to all these other places, 11 other locations. I think this is something so necessary going forwards with what's been going on politically.
I was really impressed with just the sort of cinematic nature of a lot of the pieces within the exhibition, and just kind of the sort of meditative quality of a lot of the work within it, or within the exhibition. Yeah, it was very beautiful, and I'm very happy that I came.